Hello and welcome to Modern Learning on Air. My name is Don Kemble and I'm very excited to present to you about 3 questions and 1 process that can invigorate your geography program. I am currently a 7-8 teacher at Fred Varley Public School, and I am the modern and outdoor learning lead here, so I have a lot of fun trying out new toys. The whole process here relates to 3 main questions, which many of you are probably familiar with. They really summarize everything that makes up geography. What is where, why is it there, and why care? This is a great poster that comes from the Durham District School Board, and it really outlines why all of these questions come together. It relates back to that sense of place and how every place is unique. It defines what and where, and then breaks it down into why are things there and why do they care. Taking a look at it a little more closely, the what really are the features of the earth, the physical features, the human features, and the cultures that make up those different places. Ultimately, that reflects your sense of place. Every place is going to be different. Personally, I love being back home in Temagami, out on the lake, and checking out the incredible scenery, especially at sunrise and sunset. But others enjoy more urban settings. We all have a unique sense of the places that matter to us. Where is looking at absolute and relative location, the patterns and areas, as well as the regions that come together to form those. Going back to the old concept of the themes of geography, that would reflect your concept of location and or region. Why there looks at the connections and interrelations that go together, as well as the processes that form them. Why was this school put where it is? Why is that road bending around that wetland? Why do some people farm, other people fish, other people mine, and why do some people do none of those things? Why are medical services more located in urban populations? All of these questions help us understand how everything in the world is connected and how our actions here in North America can have a huge impact in other provinces, territories, countries, all over the world. Finally, why care is that action-reaction piece. Why is this important? Why is it relevant to me? Why should I do anything about it? Knowing that water is a scarce commodity and something that needs to be protected, and that many places in the world don't have it, lends itself to some kind of action. What can I do to change that? Recognizing that it's not just other places in the world, but right here in Ontario, where communities don't happen to have access to fresh water, makes it even more relevant and even more important that we take some kind of action to fix this problem. The tool is Google My Maps. This was quietly introduced to us through our GAPS account, our G Suite piece, and it's something you may not have noticed. Basically, it takes Google Maps and turns it into something you can actually use and alter and play with right inside your account. You're going to log in at mymaps.google.com using your GAPS username and password. Once you're in, you can actually create a brand new map using the nice big red button right there on your screen. Maps are saved into your drive, can be shared, sorted, edited, all those great kind of things like we could with any other document in the drive environment. You can see some of the ones I've created here. I've created maps for justifying why I want something to happen. I've created maps that reflect this geography assignment, as well as some math activities, and I've been playing with a bunch of different styles, so you'll see I've got a bunch of untitled maps in my account. The nice thing about Google My Maps, when you load it up, is that it has many of the features that more expensive GIS software have. It allows you to add things to a base map. The base maps come in many different shapes and sizes. I've chosen satellite imagery here because I want the kids to try to figure out what exactly they're looking at. Within this environment, you can choose terrain maps, you can choose false color maps, you name it, you have access to it. So depending on what you're doing, if you want the political contours or not, You can put them on or take them off. It uses layers, and each layer can have different information on it. So as you get into building more complex maps, you can set it up so that people can turn off a layer. So if you don't want walking paths to be shown and only driving paths, you could show that up. The layers can each be given names, and it's very easy to add additional points and other features. If you look just under the search bar, you're going to see a bunch of tools there. The hand tool lets you move things around. The upside down teardrop or the ink drop tool is going to let you put specific points on the map. All of those blue question marks have been put there for this activity using that tool. The next one that shows some dots connected with lines is your polygon tool. This one is one of my favorites. You can create your own polygons. So in this activity, I created that thick orange line that shows the boundary I want students to work within. It's very easy to create those on any scale, right down to a single neighborhood and up as high as a whole continent or country. You have a direction tool that lets you figure out where you're going or how to get from one place to another. And you also have that ruler tool, which lets you actually measure distances. Now we can start working with helping students build a concept of what a square kilometer actually looks like, or how big a square meter is, using their own front yard. I think that's an incredible tool, and I'm very excited to try it. I've been using these maps both in geography and in math quite a bit, and I'm branching out into science and literacy. I can't wait to see where I take it. So for this activity, I wanted students exploring their own environment. We started by looking specifically at the Fred Varley backyard. And then when I drew the larger polygon, I chose the major streets that bound our environment. For those of us that have been paying attention in urban planning, we know that major streets are roughly 2.2 kilometers apart. So we've got 2.2 across the top, 2.2 down the sides. That's going to help us really focus in on what we want to see so that we know exactly the area we're working with. It also helps the students develop their sense of place relative to where they live, shop, go to school, and play on a daily basis. Once I determined how big the area I wanted to be, I then started going in and locating interesting pieces and features and events that I could then add those little blue question marks to. In this situation, I made a point of not giving them names. One of the pieces in the activity they had to do was actually tell me what is there, and so they had to come up with a name for it. Some of the pieces, like the parks, the streets, the connectors, have names. Other things don't. So in some cases, it was put in the middle of a field. We went from the what is where piece, so why is that pond there in your lower right-hand corner? Why is the school where it is? Why is that parquet? To why is it, where is it? And then why is it there? So specifically, why was that pond placed where it is? Because it was placed. Make no mistake about that. What you can't see very well on this map is that there is a little stream that runs just south of that parquet between the school and Country Ridge Drive. That stream is protected land. It has an endangered species in it known as the red-sided dace, which is a small minnow. Because of that, they're not able to build there. This then helps us understand why there's a green space. So once there was a green space established, well, then that seems like a good place to put a school because we can't have the same housing density nearby. Whenever we build houses in this kind of density, we then need the stormwater management areas like those ponds to be put in place. So as we start to develop our understanding of what is where and why it is there, we then start thinking about why should we care? Why does it matter that the school was placed here? Why does it matter that that stream is protected? We then started looking at other pieces that connect these different places. How would you get from one place to another? If you take a look at the layers, you'll notice that two of the points, FVPS and BOSS, are actually labeled. That's because I teach a grade 7 and 8 class, and I wanted my students to start visualizing how they would get to high school next year, what walking paths are available, what different routes they could take to get there, and how everything within this area is connected. Going back to the larger map, you can see that I chose points that are spread out as much as possible. The right-hand border follows Highway 48 or Markham Road, and there are a lot of big box and industrial places along there. But straight down the middle, you see a lot of greenland. And this is really important to have that kind of green space in a community. But I wanted my students to really think about what they needed to do and why it needed to be there. They had a lot of fun with this activity. My students took it in ways I never thought they would, and they managed to really come up with interesting ideas behind the different placement. As a final wrap-up of the activity, I asked them to then place a series of their own markers on things that they thought were important to their community. They worked to put different pieces in place and highlighted some things I never would have thought of. Small pieces that I, as an outsider, would never have seen, but that really are important to their sense of place. They found woodlots, places of worship, various routes and connectors. Some of them even started playing with the polygon tools and measurement tools in order to come up with something that they could then describe to me to help them understand, or help me understand rather, why things are where they are and why they think the choices were made. Now, they're grade 7 and 8 students. Some of their choices are pretty outlandish, but it's amazing to see how much thinking was involved in this activity. I've done map-based activities before using road maps, and we've had a lot of fun looking at distances and trying to figure out just how far things are away from each other, but I've never had them respond like I did from this activity. I think the fact that I focused specifically on their own environment really made a big difference. I want to take the last bit of my time here and talk to you about some other provocations I've come across. Both of these are from Twitter, and I'll tell you right now that if you do have a Twitter account, I strongly suggest that you follow @CanGeoEDU. That's the Canadian Geography education account, and it comes up with a lot of great stuff. I'm not saying this just because they retweet me all the time, but I'm letting you know about this account because both of these provocations have come from there. The first is from the World Wildlife Fund, and it's talking about the fact that 50% of monitored species in Canada are in decline. This trend continues after even protection under the Species at Risk Act. So this is a really neat piece for students to start to explore. We know that we care about these different creatures that are at risk, and plants, animals, insects. So we care about them, but where are they? And why are they still in decline? What's going on? And then what action can we take to make a difference? This would be a really neat piece to map using the SARO, Species at Risk Ontario website, which is a really great database of information on all of those species. On the other side, we have a really cool map that was created that shows economic inequalities on a global scale. And when you look at it, you can see the different levels, the different lightnesses that are all related to show all that economic piece. Now, this is something that I would use with my grade 8 class that focuses on economic geography. These are just a few of the incredible ideas that you can do with the Google My Maps. What I have really enjoyed using it in my inquiry program is my students are now creating maps for all different things. Once they were introduced to the tool, they very quickly started using it for everything that we do, whether it's literacy, whether it's math or geography, science, even in phys ed, they've used it to create healthy walks and different ways of getting around their neighborhood. My students have run with this tool, and I can't wait to see where they go with it next. So, 3 questions and 1 tool to invigorate your geography program. The 3 questions are, what is where, why is it there, and why do we care? And the tool is mymaps.google.com. Again, just log in with that GAPS account that you already have and get started. Don't worry about becoming an expert. Your students are going to race well ahead of you, as they did with me. Show them the tool and go from there. Thank you.